Righty, let me know when you're going. There we go. Good evening, and thank you for participating in our remote regular monthly meeting of the Parks Advisory Board. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation and ask that everyone be patient as we navigate this electronic platform. We have two formats for participation, the Zoom web application as well as teleconference. Before we begin, I want to review some guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices such as your cell phone or desk phone. This will ensure that we are not hearing any feedback or causing any interruption during the meeting. During the meeting, all participants on Zoom, except for board members and county staff, will be placed on mute by the host. This means that you will not be able to mute or unmute your lines manually. The chair will announce opportunities for public comment, which are included on the meeting agenda. For those on Zoom, if you would like to make public comment, please click the raise hand feature to signal that you would like to comment. The sound will be unmuted and the internet participant should announce their first and last name before speaking. Participant will be called upon to speak in the appropriate time. For those using the phone line only, if you'd like to make public comment, please dial *9 on your keypad to signal that you would like to comment. The last 4 digits of the call-in number will be announced, and call-in participants should announce their first and last name before speaking. The participant will be called upon to speak at the appropriate time. Please note, you can hang up or leave the Zoom meeting at any time. So, welcome all, welcome all. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And let's go ahead and go through our introductions right now. First, board members.
Linda Berry Mare, North Kitsap.
Lisa Hurt, North Kitsap.
John Pearson, Central Kitsap.
Dawn Doctor, South Kitsap.
Amy Smalley, South Kitsap.
And I'm Larry Walker from South Kitsap. So staff personnel that are present. Alex?
Alex Waziewski, Parks Director, and I will hand it off to Kevin.
Kevin Cedar, Park Stewardship Forester. I'll pass off to Irene.
Irene Wepper, Natural Resource Program Supervisor. Who else is here? Alex Hardy?
I'm Alex Hardy, the Marketing and Events Program Supervisor, and I think Chuck.
Yep, Chuck Cazzetto here with Marketing and Communications. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is the adoption of the October 16th, 2024 meeting minutes. I'm assuming everybody had a chance to read those. So are there any corrections, additions, subtractions?
Move they be accepted as printed.
Thank you, John. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Amy. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this issue? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Opposed? And we now have minutes. Okay, this is our time for public comments. Dee, do we have anybody waiting in the wings?
We do, and we have Mark Libby. I'm allowing you to talk.
Can you hear me now?
We can, Mark. Welcome aboard.
I'm up here in Kingston, and with the Kingston Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee, wanted to report that we had a work party last Saturday focused on Carpenter Creek and Carpenter Lake Preserve. 10 folks showed up. We removed the leaves from the pin pile boardwalk that goes out to the lake shore, and also cleaned off leaves off the trail. Some of the platforms that are at the beginning of the boardwalk were extremely slick. That just over the years have got an algae growth on them. We stapled down some 1/4-inch hardware cloth screening for a pathway across the platform that's the entry to the boardwalk down to the lake to improve the traction there. As far as the general report, the park's in good shapes, although this is one of the few parks that has an ADA access trail. And one of the switchbacks that was an ADA compliant switchback has become eroded and cut off and needs to be repaired with some heavy shovel work and some rocks to repair the switchback that's worn down the ADA ramp. Also of note, I had Kevin Cedar out there earlier, about a month ago, and we noted that the spruce trees that are growing in the bog are by and large dying off, at least on the east side. And that's kind of a concern. What's going on? And you know, beyond my expertise, if it's high water level or we did note that the water level is higher than in previous years, maybe seasonal, or maybe there's a pH change or something going on. Very interesting. Up here in the Kingston neighborhood for Cola Park, we're still waiting to get water into the Scout Hall, a project we started back in February. And the idea there, now that Scout Hall is being used by girls and Cubs that are all part of the Boy Scouts, we really need a sink and bathroom in the Scout Hall there. And a couple of options, in addition to bringing water in so we can hook up a kitchen, a bathroom and a sink. There's a short-term possibility of repairing the public bathroom in Cola Park that's over there by the school. It needs to have the fixtures replaced. Or one of the Cub Scout masters has recommended that we get a porta potty installed as a temporary fix. I noted in Alex's discussion with the county commissioners a month ago that there was some discussion of hazard trees. We had a report about 2 weeks ago of a couple of dead hemlocks at the edge of Nike Park. The neighbor feels that those hemlocks are a danger to her home. And with the help of Sierra Cross, we got those posted in C-Fix Click. I checked with the lady yesterday. We still haven't heard of any proposed action on that. And speaking of hazard trees, Kevin and I saw a couple of large evergreen trees that had died at Quiet Place Park that are about 20 feet from Ohio Avenue. And the road at that point is a north-south configuration. Generally, the winds are out of the south. And so if they fell, they would probably not hit the power lines or road. However, if we have an easterly component to the wind like we did yesterday, there's a risk of those trees going across the road and power lines. So that's something you guys need to kind of talk about. And like I say, I came up at the commissioners meeting. And the one other item, I got a question, a request from the commissioner's office today to add James Bunn to the distribution list for Quiet Place, not Quiet Place, for Kingston Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee. Not quite sure what his role is, but I've got him on our distribution list now, so we'll keep him informed of what's going on here with Kingston. That's my report for today. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Dee, do we have any other people waiting in the wings?
We do. We have Sam Huff, and I'm allowing you to talk.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you, Sam.
Oh, perfect. All right. So I'm Sam Huff. I'm from the West Sound Disc Golf Association. And I just want to give a little recap on our disc golf opportunity we had at Square Lake. So with that, the West Sound DGA is at the end of our user agreement with Kitsap Parks that used a temporary disc golf course for scheduled event weekends. It consisted of one weekend for a month for May to October. The disc golf equipment did remain on site during the non-event play, but was not available to be used. And the last scheduled disc golf event for 2024 is this weekend, and it is a fundraiser for the South Kitsap Helpline. The disc golf play opportunity was held at the area referred to as the disc golf area at Square Lake property, which is designated as a specialized use area within the Coulter Creek Heritage Park. The area of focus at the park during this time was general trail brushing and to make the disc golf course playable and trash collection from illegal dumping. During this time, we provided great surveillance at the park, and we recently observed timber theft on the property, which we did report to Kitsap Parks, and there's some ongoing investigation on that. They actually took quite a bit of timber. But with that, in closing, we just want to really show appreciation to the Kitsap Parks for allowing this opportunity. It was a great success for the community, and we are enthusiastic about ongoing developments of potential new disc golf in Kitsap County, such as the fairgrounds course we already have. Basically, the collaborative efforts between Kitsap Parks and the WSDGA has played a pivotal role in creating thriving, enjoyable space for both seasoned players and newcomers alike. In closing, our disc golf play opportunity, participation over the 12 days we had the course open to play, there's 775 rounds of golf played. So there's a high demand for additional course in the area. And with that, to make the course playable for the 6 months we've had it, 667 hours of volunteer time have been put on that park to make it playable, and also to clean up the trash and everything else too. So with that, in closing, thanks a lot for Kitsap Parks for allowing us the opportunity, and looking forward to future endeavors. That's all I got for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Before you sign off here, you kind of piqued my curiosity. Timber theft. What are we talking about here?
It appears, so when we first noticed it, it was fairly small. It looked like to me that someone was in there collecting wood for firewood.
Were they knocking stuff down, or just taking the stuff that was already on the ground?
All of it salvage wood.
Oh, okay. All right. They're just basically hot patching firewood.
Yep. And so we noticed a little bit at first, and after that, we kind of like, wait a minute. And then I went in to set up the course for the October monthly. Then I noticed an area that had a bunch of fallen timber around one of our basket areas. And there was also a large pile of debris for trash that was come through. So the location was really suspect. It's kind of like, well, if you back into there, you're doing it on purpose. It's not something that would even be remotely county parks approved. So then I reached out to our local coordinator, which we want to look further into and stuff. And yeah, I think over the course of the last 2 months, there's been at least 10 cords of wood stolen out of there. And so since then, we've been walked around trying to find out. We found out where they're coming in from, but they are cutting the lock to leave the gate. So two occasions they've cut the lock on the gate to exit the park.
Okay. Well, thanks, Sam. Thanks for your vigilance in your village.
Victoria knows all about it. We've walked the property, and Kitsap Parks knows about it.
Okay.
So, anyway,
it was just kind of piqued my curiosity there.
Yeah. It just shows the importance of having users on the parks, so they see stuff and they report it. So, and it's really having a presence on the parks is very important to do for surveillance purposes. And the Coulter Creek area has got issues, I know more or less than other parks, but I mean, there's some of the community in that area shouldn't be there. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you very much, Sam.
No,
do we have anybody else waiting?
Hey, Larry.
Yes.
Just thanks for the comment, Sam. Just a quick update on the timber theft. It was reported to the sheriff, and the sheriff did catch people quite in the act of stealing downed and cut up timber. So we are in the legal process with some individuals. So
okay. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Linda, you got your hand in the air too.
Now, I just wanted to mention that probably, I'm guessing it was 8 to 10 years ago, there were several instances of timber theft on the Bluff Trail in Port Gamble, where people were going in and vandalizing the old growth maple trees and cutting off burls for super high value old growth maple burl wood. Once we put the trail in, that kind of stopped, but initially, there were some ongoing problems with that. So just wanted to share that.
I love it. Yes, Dawn.
I just wanted to say that the stewards and the community members that I've talked to about the disc golf have been overwhelmingly supportive of it and are happy that it's out there and that it is, well, they're keeping an eye on things, but with that many people going in, I'm hoping that if they go in for another temporary or decide for another permanent play area,
that we can support that because I think it's needed and it's in a good place and the community likes it.
All right, thank you. Yes, Alex.
Just one, thanks for that, Don. I appreciate it. I just want to put the pause on any talk of anything permanent in Coulter Creek or the adjacent parks there until we conclude the master plan or the framework process. You'll see in the director's write-up that we are going through interviews for planner position. We have 3 more on Friday. We had 2 individuals on Monday, and we are very optimistic. We're going to come out with an offer at the very least. And, as I have suggested in past meetings, the Coulter Creek plan is one of the top priorities for projects that we want the planner to move forward. So just want to indicate we're not making any decisions on permanence at that location until we get through the planning phase.
Hey, thank you, Alex. So, Dee, back to you. Any other people waiting?
There are not.
There are not. Well, okay, this concludes the first part of our public comment. And now then that brings us to special presentations and reports. Our first one is Forest Restoration and Stewardship Policy. That will be Kevin and Irene. Anybody in the public or anybody wishes to have any questions or comments on this, board members, please hold your questions till the end if you can, unless there's something that really needs total clarification. And for public members and everything, please capture your questions and submit them to the parks. Okay, appreciate that. Now, Irene, it's yours.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to do a little introduction. Kevin, I don't know if you want to share the PowerPoint so we can get that up there.
Yeah, I'll get. All right, everybody's can see the presentation up there?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, there.
All right, very good. So.
Great. Yeah, so Kevin's going to do the majority of this presentation. I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction and kind of background on what this is and next steps. So this is a part of kind of a suite of documents that we've been working on over the course of the past year as Kevin and I have both come on board. Kevin's been the primary mover and shaker on this, but I've helped a little. So this is kind of the first of those documents, which is an update to our forest stewardship and restoration policy. So it's initially rolled out in, I believe, 2012. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally approved that. Yeah.
And then updated in 2015. So this is an update to that policy, and Kevin will get into the kind of the nitty gritty of what was updated there. But essentially, this is a policy that kind of looks at the high level whys and hows of what needs to be done in our forests in order to help promote their ecological integrity and function. So just so people have a kind of overview of what the timeline for this is, if you go to the next slide, Kevin. Kevin has been doing a lot of analysis of existing data, what was done in the past, what our current conditions are, and what needs to be done in the future to kind of help support and put together this policy update. In September and October, we sent it to a number of external reviewers, external experts from various agencies and tribes, academic institutions, conservation groups, to look at this policy and give us feedback and comments, which have been folded into the draft that was provided in your packet. On the November 14th and 19th, we had a meeting with our PAB subcommittee, the Property and Planning subcommittee, where we ran through this with them, and they were able to ask detailed questions and give us some really valuable feedback. So we really appreciate the time that everyone took to do that. And here we are today on the 20th, introducing it to you. We've been working with the Board of County Commissioners to determine what the desired rollout for this process is going to be. So today we're just kind of introducing you to this policy. We don't need a vote or anything like that. In 2025, we're going to introduce this to the Board of County Commissioners. We're going to have public comment periods, public meetings, some site visits, and other outreach. before we return to the BOCC to present this policy to them in its more final version. So this is a draft today. If you have any comments or questions, there's still plenty of time to get that information to us. And I guess from here, Kevin, I'll let you take it away and talk about all the hard work that you've done on this project.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Irene. So let's kind of kick things off, starting out with, just what is this updated policy that I'm working on? As Irene mentioned, it's starting with the 2012 policy was updated in 2015 and making some major revisions, refinements, and expansions to that policy. It made the primary goals of the previous policy maintain the same, but I'm coming to it for a little bit different context than Arno did. So Arno did a great job getting the forest stewardship program going here at Kitsap County Parks. But he has a background in forestry extension, so kind of on the education, landowner support side of forestry. I come from a very different background of silviculturist and forest bionutrition by training. So silviculture being all about growing stands of trees for whatever end you might want. And with the forest biometrics, that's where kind of math and ecology come together. So very, very much a quantitative guy that loves trees. And so I look at, the policies from that and the forestry from that perspective. Much last 10 years of my career was spent working on forest restoration. And so really in this updated policy, trying to refocus the program on restoring the forest and not necessarily taking it back to pre-settlement conditions, but restoring processes and such to our forest to get things working more like they should, and hopefully to be more resilient to expected climate change. And within the policy, I added, expand the goals and also add so objectives and measurable criteria. So I think measurable criteria are really important. It gets back to my data-driven side of forestry of, if we do something, what can we measure to see how it's performing? Is it getting us where we want to go? Also add a lot of updated science, data, and more of a framework structure to the restoration process. Also adding some flexibility to adapt to regulatory changes and to site-specific ecological needs. One concern is areas where there's very specific items put in policy to cover things such as, the sensitive areas that are protected by forestry and other regulations. What happens if the regulations change and the policy no longer lines up? We have to update the policy. So we're going to try to build that flexibility in so we don't have to update this policy too often, hopefully. I also add a programmatic purpose and need. So the what's and whys of what we're doing. This is a legacy of my work with the Forest Service on National Environmental Policy Act assessments of landscapes. And those documents start off pretty much like with the purpose and need, the what do you want to do and why do you need to do it. So I mean, that's a good place to kind of kick things off for the policy, which we'll see here in a little bit, to say the what and the why for our restoration. All right, so as Irene mentioned, we put the document out to external reviewers to get input from them. They provide some very valuable information from a lot of different perspectives. As I mentioned, you had tribes, forester from Pierce County, the Nature Conservancy, Great Peninsula Conservancy. Some of the other ones are escaping me right now, but broad range of people. And what this policy covers is basically the forests, so the trees, vegetation, habitats, access roads, soils, riparian areas, wetlands, streams, and other forest and aquatic resources. It does not cover specific areas like recreation, trails, park development, volunteer involvement, outreach, etc. These will be covered in following documents. So they're all very important, but this is really focused on the trees, the vegetation, the other forest resources. Other areas will be handled in planning or other things down the line. Okay, so jump to the purpose and need. This purpose, it's similar to goals in some ways, but vision the purpose for the stewardship and restoration of the parks, to create forests that have composition structures that facilitate the growth of large, vigorous trees resilient to insects, diseases, expected climate change, and potential wildfires. So, big part of it is we get bigger trees, they'll be more resilient. It's kind of the crux of that. I want to provide high quality terrestrial, aquatic, and riparian habitats that have high ecological function, ecosystem services production. So, wildlife habitats, riparian areas where you're producing things that riparian zones need, like leaf fall, large woody debris, water filtration, overland flow, and ecosystem services production. That can be anything from recreational opportunities to wildlife habitat to forage, carbon sequestration, whole range of things. I want to maintain enhanced soil conditions, productivity. Whatever we do, we don't want to, impact the soil such that the forests aren't growing well. Want to allow opportunities for public and cultural foraging and gathering, and also parks that are a refugia for wildlife and humans in increasingly developing and urbanized environment. One of the unique features about the parks of Kitsap County is they're pretty much either are or will be embedded in development around all sides. So they're not, say, big wildland areas, but they provide some great areas for stopovers for wildlife, or maybe some smaller wildlife that could live in the area of the park, or places where people can go to get away from all the hustle and bustle of life and do forest bathing or other recreational opportunities in there to help their well-being. All right, and then coming to the need. So we're seeing a graph right here. It's quite literally a 10,000-foot view of the forests on our parks, all kind of combined into one graph. We can't really take any point on that graph and say, this is this place in this park. It's got a big overview. And this graph is using data that was published by the Washington Department of Natural Resources, some remotely sensed forest inventory data they use for planning on their ownerships, and they provide those data for other ownerships as well. So we have a phenomenal resource from the DNR in these data. But looking at those data across our parks, we find that we have a lot of areas on our forests are dominated by small and medium-sized trees. So that's small trees being 9 and 14 inches, medium trees 15 to 20 inches. And we have a real lack of large and very large areas dominated by large and very large trees that, you might have expected, with, if we hadn't had all the cutting that's happened out here. So essentially what we have on our parks is a legacy of the past ownership and forest management. These are areas that were owned by the Department of Natural Resources, private timber companies that were managed for timbers. They've been cut once or twice, been planted or naturally generated, but the condition are generally small-ish trees. And these trees are also very, very dense for the most part. So the colors here in the graph are relative competition levels. The green being no competition, very open stands. Think, young forest at Port Gamble, where trees have a lot of space to grow. Or the red being very dense forests. There's some areas, one comes to mind, the northeast corner Banner Forest, where it was cut in the 70s and planted. I'm not sure if it's pre-commercially thin, but right now it's very, very dense and there's very little understory. The trees aren't growing well. Trees are starting to be killed by insect outbreaks in that area. So we have stands are very dense where tree growth is slowed. Trees are stressed because there's not enough room for them to grow, not enough water to grow around. They're getting less and less green stuff up on top to make less and less food. And so they become susceptible to insects and diseases. So stand forest health is reduced. Ecosystem service productions or carbon sequestration, habitat, vegetation diversity, etc., are reduced, as well as ecological function. So we think about producing functional deadwood. So think a snag big enough for a pileated woodpecker to nest in a big tree, or even hairy woodpecker, about 12-inch tree. So those things aren't being produced. When the understory vegetation is suppressed or lacking, water filtration for overland flow could end up impacting riparian areas. Again, there's need out there. But don't conflate we have need with these areas will be thinned. Let's kind of start off. Big area, we have this need, then once we get into planning, then things start to get reduced. What can we work on? There's the areas that, we can't get into because of protection regulations. And some areas, we start interfacing in with the social wants of the forest. There may be areas that, the way they are and the social desires of these forests outweigh the forest health needs. So that's all gonna be planning processes down in the future. So once we get down to it, a lesser area will be treated, but that area is still to be determined sometime in the future. Right now, it's kind of saying a general overall 10,000 foot picture of we have some needs. All right, now moving on to goals and objectives. Again, our goals are overarching directions for the stewardship program. So what do we want to accomplish? And objectives are measurable things that we can use to assess conditions and track forest development progress. And these goals objectives, I've separated them out into 3 different components. Forest structure and composition, so the numbers and sizes and types of trees and other vegetation in the forest. Aquatic and soil resources, and then social, biological, and financial sustainability. All right, and so the overarching goals here, now verbatim from the document, but on the forest structure composition, restore, maintain, enhance structures, number and sizes of trees, and composition, species and species types are consistent with site appropriate vegetation types and plant associations. So want to stick with what should be on the site and not say create novel ecosystems, which humans have had a habit of doing through time. The aquatic and soil resources, protect, maintain, enhance aquatic resources, so streams, wetlands, riparian areas, to ensure clean watershed and ecological functions for fish and other species that use streams, lakes, shorelines, wetlands. And then soils, protect, maintain, enhance soil resources, ensure long-term soil health, nutrition, stability, and productivity. We don't want to do things that cause mass wasting, hillside sliding down, so we'll be very cautious of those sorts of things, as well as erosion, compaction, etc. Then social, biological, and financial sustainability. I didn't make through my edits. Ensure that forest stewardship and restoration activities are socially, biological, and financially sustainable over the life of the forest stewardship program. So at some point in time, this program may cease to exist. We may have all our forests restored and we can walk away and say life is good. But until that point in time, we want to make sure things are sustainable. Now, one of the big additions, I think, to this policy is this restoration framework. That's something Irene brought to the table for background in restoration. It's the little image on the left-hand side is sort of a framework from Society for Ecological Restoration, with the different components of restoration that compartmentalize all the processes, and it's cyclical. So this is be an ongoing cycle. It's not a one and done for the most part. It's you go through all your steps, you come back to the beginning. Let's take another look and go see if we need to go back around. And so that I've kind of taken those 5 steps and kind of compelled them into 4 because it makes more sense. I think from my perspective on forest management, but the components are, starts out with forest resource assessments. That's what policies related to how we assess forests and other resources. So the assessment is like figuring out what you have on the ground right now. you're going to be restoring something, you better know what's there. And this also feeds back into my very quantitative background. Okay, once you know what's there, then you go into your planning and permitting. So have what's there, compare it to where you want it to be, determine what the differences are, make some plans to move it in the direction towards the desired conditions. And with all that, make sure you're getting the right permits to make things happen. Okay, and after the permitting, you have stewardship and restoration implementation. This is where the plans and permitting meet the ground and things get done. So we get into actual treatments and types of treatments that could be used, how they might be applied. After the treatments, we have the monitoring evaluation. So once you've done the treatment, go back in and do some measurements to see how well the treatments perform relative to the goal, to the objectives of individual treatments. Then down the line, seeing how those forests are developing. All right, I'm going to step through each of those individual components. And so I'll talk about a few elements for each of these to go along with the policy. So start off forest resource assessment. Policy by Kitsap County Parks use the best available science, data, technology, and practices to assess current forest vegetation, forest roads, aquatic soils, soil resource conditions, wildlife use, ecosystem services production, departures from reference model and desired conditions. Got a bit real mouthful there. But it starts off, I have 4 different elements here. It starts off with creating assessment units in the forest. Forests are very diverse, and it can be difficult to get meaningful information from too big of an area because of all the variability. So standard practice in forest and forest restoration is break out assessment units or treatment areas. So that'd be the first step that we would do and start our assessment, into our plans, so you can break forest into similar conditions. The Sapney's Banner Forest, we'll see a lot of images with maps for Banner Forest, not implying anything. It's one area I've been looking at a lot, trying to really understand that forest. Gets really cool. And so it's what I happen to have on hand. So nothing should be construed beyond that other than opportunistic. But with breaking things out, the units I created here are basically by forest types, if you will. Looking at things like tree heights, tree sizes, harvest histories. We have 4 different harvest histories here. You have area over here cut in the 60s, up here in the 70s. In the 80s, we have these 3 different blocks over here. And the rest of the area was cut way back when, in the 100+ years ago. Except maybe this area down here, which is real oddball, and pretty cool. All right, once you have the areas delineated, that's when you start compiling and collecting some data. So forest resource inventories, and this could come from a number of data sources. See in the upper right-hand corner, here's more of the DNR forest inventory, forest inventory data right here. These are tree sizes, or size classes. So I think the overstory size class graph we just saw earlier. So we have areas like these most recently regenerated clear cuts. These are be in the small tree sizes. The light green, medium tree. I think some of these darker green are some large tree areas. So I said these are data that are free for us to use. They're really good for initial planning. We also might want to go in and actually collect some actual forest inventory data on the ground to get more specific conditions that are for us. Start thinking about where our streams are. We don't necessarily want to walk all our streams. That can take a lot of time and effort, but there is some great data from the DNR and the Wild Fish Conservancy. This lower left-hand image. Those are streams in North Kitsap Heritage Park. And the lines that you're seeing are actually ground truthed streams where the Wild Fish Conservancy verified the location of the stream, as well as whether or not it's fish bearing stream, which have bearing on buffers and things like that for as we're getting into planning. So we'll also be developing some reference conditions, and as reference conditions, I like to think of them as historical conditions tempered by climate change. Climate has definitely changed since these old trees established. And so we don't want to take things back, but say, okay, well, what did the forest look like previously? These images are both from Banner Forest, got a big western white pine that I found. Kitsap Pine's pretty cool because we have the second most western white pine in Washington State behind Ponderay County. Not sure why that is, but I still think it's pretty cool. They have so much white pine. And you know, you also could see a lot of old stumps to also give us a flavor of what those forests looked like previously. Came back to the north end of Banner. I was walking through there once, and there's an area where there's lots of hemlock and cedar, open understories, and really see the stumps. Got my latest rangefinder out and started taking distances between stumps, and those big old trees were 20 to 50 feet apart before they cut the first time around. So anywhere from maybe 10 to 50 trees per acre out there. We have a whole lot more trees than that right now. So but yeah, we want to use the best information we can to reference conditions, whether it's legacies that are out there, or Irene and I have been trying to get over on the Stavis to look at some of their remaining original forests to see what that looks like today. Once we have reference conditions, start all our data collected, start doing some assessments. So how do the forest conditions now compare with what we want? Where are the differences? And here we want to use the best available tools we can for that. I mean, there's a lot of science out there and models to look at conditions and how they might change with management. Many things like image right here is from the U.S. Forest Service Forest Vegetation Simulator. It's forest growth model, so you can put our inventory into the model and say, okay, here's what it looks like now. What might it look like in the future under our management? Give us a picture of, does this meet our expectations before we actually send a logger out there and cut the trees? In the model, we can stand the trees back up. In the woods, we can't. So these assessments beforehand. We also look at, say, through time, where to expect our forest to go. Here's a graph from Klaus Putman, one of his papers. He's a silviculture professor at Oregon State University, looking at where, as your forest is developing, where do you rate as far as, he's calling this old growthness. So just an example of where might we be fitting in these trajectories, and where do you want to go as part of our assessments. All right, so after the assessment, going to the stewardship, restoration, planning, and permitting. Again, here the policy of the Kitsap Parks will maintain current plans, including program-wide implementation plan and park-specific stewardship and restoration plans, require necessary permits from appropriate agencies prior to project implementation. Okay, so I'm kind of planning at 2 levels and then permitting as we're getting down towards the ground. So first level planning for stewardship and restoration program, implementation planning, be looking across all parks. And I've been envisioning kind of a 2-part plan here. So it's 10-year strategic plan. What do we have coming up over the next decade as potential projects? And then also like a 3-year tactical plan for 2 different things. So if we want to look at going out 10 years, talk about sustainability, you'll be looking at how much revenue we're bringing in, or it could be the workload we need to make sure we have enough staffing and funding for the restoration needs to be done. So look at this graph example that I put together a while ago, and Alex are pushing me on the looking at the planning is, on the left-hand side of the graph, our past performance of the forest stewardship program, revenues and costs. And then given where the needs are and some limitations and markets, what might our revenue look like going out in the future? So that's part of the determining the sustainability. And these are just different scenarios looking at different log prices, because markets, as we can see here, can be highly variable and have a big impact on revenues. All right, and these plans give us, again, mentioned a pot of bins of what needs to be done for planning, and that could be anything from the thinning, but there are lots of other activities we'll see coming up that need to be done as well. Things like young stand thinning, where trees aren't big enough to be merchantable, to data collection, to vegetation management, a whole range of things that come with it. Cost we can build into this too, to get a good picture of revenues and costs. Then go to individual park planning. Building the plans for individual parks, I like to take the approach of collecting lots of information and compile that information to give a story of the park. And for me, that goes back to looking at the history of the park. Lower right hand corner here, these are 6 slides of progression in time of Banner Forest, how it's changed from 1951, probably about 100 years, close to 100 years after the first cutting started in the area, to 2021. You can see how the forest changed. So I kind of tell the story of how the forest got to where it is now. And we can look at where the forest is now as well. Again, a couple of pictures of big white pine, and here's a picture of that northeast corner banner where we have some insect issues. So I compile this information together and determine treatment needs, have some public meetings. I just want to have public involved in helping us build out these plans, and that would end up giving us a forest stewardship and restoration plan we can go forward with. And that plan would give us lots of things, the history and the current conditions, the needs, so what needs to be done and where and when. Being, leaning on my work that I've done with the Forest Service, these kind of reports kind of build off the silviculture reports I did for my big landscape restoration projects, but want to be building in very specific silvicultural prescriptions, and within these prescriptions be very specific on what trees we want to take, what trees we want to leave, what the conditions are we want to have after the treatment. And that does a couple of things for us, gives surety to the county for what we're going to get, and also helps guide our contractors so we can get a good product, and they know what they're going to get out of the process as well. And finally, when it comes to the permitting portion of it, again, mentioned get the necessary permits we need. Definitely forest practice applications for doing timber harvesting or road work, or working around working around water, so streams or wetlands, or if need be, permitting with Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife was the hydraulic or HPA hydraulic project application, potentially permitting through DCD. Again, it will be really project specific, and they'll be determine what we need to get to make sure we are doing everything correctly. But one thing to think about with permitting is the 6-year development moratorium. And this is the 6-year development moratorium, something the county will impose on parcels when timber harvest happens, to help ensure forests are not converted to non-timber uses following timber harvest. So I'm still don't fully understand this whole process. I've talked with DCD a bit about it. It's still somewhat opaque. But we can do a timber harvest permit to the county. It's also known as conversion option harvest plan. And you have to meet DCD criteria, county criteria, in order to get your forest practice application approved by the Washington Department of Natural Resources. Can do a few things for us. It'll definitely increase costs of permitting time. Also may impose some restrictions that are not appropriate for forest restoration. This is something where I'd be interested to talk with DCD about permitting restoration work, which to do for shorelines, but in a forestry context. But the biggest takeaway here is the importance of planning ahead for park infrastructure. So a map of the Stottlemyre parking lot up at Port Gamble, and because of all the harvesting there, they had to lift the moratorium on that parcel to be able to develop that parking lot. So in other parks, and this is good reason, hopefully we get a planner on board soon, is to be looking ahead for planning so that we don't pinch ourselves by doing some restoration work and then being stuck with a 6-year moratorium when we want to start doing some infrastructure development. All right, so I got through all the planning and permitting, got the permits. Now it's time to start putting doing some implementation out on the ground. So policy here, we use the most appropriate activity types and associated equipment to implement stewardship and restoration activities to meet activity goals and minimize adverse impacts. And so the elements here, we have a combination of, the activities that we would put in place on the ground for restoration, along with resource protection and enhancement. So I definitely, one of the goals, the goals here are to maintain our resources and enhance them where we can. So it's a big part there. As far as our activities go, when it comes to managing the forest part, forest resource management, you have kind of a couple ways of doing things. You can remove trees or add trees. So you have tree cutting, tree planting. So on the image on the left-hand side up here is an aerial view of my Square Lake. While thinning was going on, let's say, when the thinning happened, made some more space for the trees and see some ground there. So you can go in, remove trees to create the space we're looking for. Reallocate resources for the trees, give them more growing space, access to more water, all these various things. With the cutting, it could be thinning, and with thinning, that is, I thought, like I say, the objective of thinning is basically to create more space for the trees, and get more light to the understory to facilitate growth of understory vegetation or existing trees in the understory. Thinning treatments objective for me is not necessarily regeneration. There may be, there will be seeding most likely. We see that a lot in some RNO's units. But if we want to do some regeneration, we can do things like some uneven age regeneration harvesting. And these be like patch cuts that like GPC is doing, kind of mimicking, say rut pockets where you thin heavier to make more space, more light to getting down the ground to really revitalize the understory, help establish new trees, create more diversity vertically and horizontally. And putting trees in could be planting, like see on the right image there is some nice old Doug fir babies up at Port Gamble. And so you can help control species composition, combination of cutting and planting, taking or leaving certain species and adding them in as needed. All right, really adding in here going forward is wildlife habitat enhancements. So these are things like building, wildlife habitat piles. Like see in the upper left image here. These are not slash piles where slash and everything's kind of dumped in the pile. These are purposely constructed piles. They start off with laying logs on Lincoln log style, putting some smaller pieces up on top for different types of cavities and areas for that species might use. Down the bottom left, you see a constructed log. So when large downwoods, very important for many species. So if we don't have any big trees, we can build a large log analog by stacking up many smaller logs, or even some snag creation. So when we have somebody in there doing some thinning, they can reach up with their machine as high as they can and cut the tree off and leave a small snag, very tall stump, to help create some of these dead wood structures that are very important for wildlife habitat. We also do vegetation management, and this may be ensuring that our vegetation composition is within what should be in these areas, following thinning. And part of that could be letting the vegetation naturally come up for a few years, see what's in the seed bank, and make sure our vegetation go in the right direction. For native species, it could also be doing a lot of work with invasive species. Image at the bottom is like along the 1600 road up on Port Gamble, where Rainier's doing some road betterment. But once they did the clearing along the edge of the road and you look out, there's a lot of Scotch broom out there to deal with. So that'll be part of our restoration, is dealing with these invasive species and trying to reduce their impact on the future forests. And road maintenance will be a part of the activities as well, whether it be roads that are being used for hauling during restoration work, or just maintaining the roads in such a way that we minimize the impact on especially aquatic resources. If roads deteriorate too much, you get sedimentation into wetlands and streams. I'm trying to avoid that by making sure we're maintaining our roads and not letting, say, culverts get plugged. The pictures over on the right-hand side, that is a 4-foot culvert under the Spine Line Trail over at North Kitsap by the beaver pond, where the beaver's done a nice job at trying to plug up that pipe. There's about 6 inches of open space left because, it's like maintenance wasn't done to keep that pipe clear. So now I'm getting concerned that with a big rain event, we might come close to overtopping that road and causing some sedimentation, impacting the stream and wetland farther downstream. Also, as I mentioned, resource protection enhancements a very important part in this as well. Resource protection, that'd be ensuring we have buffers around the aquatic resources, or if we have big old snags like in the upper right-hand corner, which are pretty rare on the landscape right now because of all the past timber harvest. Let's give those things some room and make sure they stay standing. They're extremely valuable. And then start thinking about enhancement. Mentioned, we have white pine, a lot of white pine in our parks. Trying to maintain those as they're getting squeezed by competition. And then the lower right-hand corner, this is a big old tree over on Banner Forest. It was something that was probably left after when they did the first cutting there 100-ish years ago. It's a lot bigger now, but it's only going to get so big because of its crown. But now we have a situation where lots of trees have grown up around it and are starting to compete with it for light and space. And with climate change, as things get warmer and growing season gets longer without any extra rain, that big old tree could end up being stressed because of competition. So if we're doing some enhancement, maybe we thin out more around those trees to make sure we can keep those big old trees on the landscape for this, because in part because they're cool, in part because they're very important for wildlife habitat. And the final bit of all this is monitoring and evaluation. After we do put treatments in place, get out there and take some measurements to make sure we're getting what we're expecting, and they give us a baseline for looking at how our forests are developing. There could be several elements in this. Two specific ones are doing treatment compliance monitoring. So as the logger is working, get out there and put some plots in to make sure tree counts and tree sizes are within spec. If they aren't, work with the logger to bring them back into spec. And then also could be a periodic, say 10-year, rolling inventory. So about every 10 years we go out there, collect plot data, quite possibly on the same plot, so we can see how specific trees and things are changing through time and developing, and how our treatments are getting things going in the right direction, or if we remeasure and find out they're not, how do we swing things back in the right direction? And with that, I'll say thank you for getting the opportunity to present this to you, and I will open things up to questions.
Okay, John, I see your hand up first.
Listening to this whole thing, one of the things that right here at the end, the beavers with the culvert, isn't there some way that we can clean that culvert out? So I know they will be right back in. I had that problem over at Clear Creek. They told me I couldn't, till they told me I couldn't clear them out anymore. But if that's going to damage the roads and everything.
Yeah, that's something I'm starting to look at right now. I've been in contact with the DNR about what kind of permitting we need to do to make that happen. So yeah, it definitely looks like it was let go for a long time, and now we want to try and fix things before we have a big problem.
Thank you.
All right, Linda, I'm seeing your hand up.
Couple things. One also on that culvert, and North Kitsap Trails Association actually built a beaver deceiver in that exact culvert, I guess 2012, 2013, but that's been a while, and beavers are, beavers. They're they just keep going. A couple of comments. One, really impressive amount of work you've done. And, it's also really daunting, as one of the community members who really pushed for some of the big park acquisitions recently, it's just real clear to me, we have a huge amount of work in front of us. And I've also been a volunteer. I started working with the County Parks Department in 2000, so it's coming up on 25 years. And
wow.
The two things that I've never seen enough of are staff and money, so time. Mm-hmm. And I do think that it's important, as you lay all this out, it just looks, it's going to be really hard to ever get to perfect, right?
Oh yeah. We're never gonna get there. Yeah.
But I'm glad to see kind of the financial sustainability and some caveats in there, because I've seen a lot of years of county budgets and commissioners, and when they have to choose between life safety, the courts and the sheriff's department or parks, parks doesn't, is usually underfunded, and unfortunately, I don't think that's going to go away. But a couple of specific comments is I had mentioned to Irene, because I did miss our second subcommittee meeting. I popped on, my dentist appointment ended just after the rest of you guys had hung up. But I did have a suggestion, since Parks is always balancing a lot of different complex needs, that maybe at the beginning of this document, you insert something like the park's mission statement to kind of make it clear that parks, even if it's a forest park, you can't just focus on the park's forestry. The parks has a lot of competing needs. And I think that that mission statement says that. Also, along the words of social sustainability, I asked you about that the first subcommittee meeting, and to me, I think what you said is that what that really means is people in parks and the community support. And I'm wondering if that really should be its separate bullet, since the community quality of life and enjoyment of parks seems to be a separate but important issue from, rather than financial sustainability or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I also had some questions. You had a graph in there about the actual and projected net revenues. And I was wondering if we might go back to that because I thought that was worth looking at, both for what it's been and where you might see it go. And, my concern that there'll never be enough money in funding.
Well,
Let's
Kevin
see.
gets back to that slide, I'll just mention that, when we're looking at other ways of funding the work that needs to be done. So the work that needs to be done remains the same, whether we are able to recoup any costs from the work itself or not. The main thing that will change financially is when we do things, or potentially how we fund. We're exploring some options for funding some of the work that needs to be done with grants or with cost share programs through various agencies. So there are other ways besides either core funding from the general fund or recouping costs through the sale of timber products as a part of thinning operations to make this work happen.
Well, and I know that our board just wrote that letter to the commissioners, encouraging them to use other sources for, instead of relying on the timber harvest for 2 positions. I don't know if the commissioners have conveyed, and maybe Alex knows, if there might be any potential for that. But I was assuming that this jump between 23 and 24 on that red line is when we went to the 2 positions being funded by the harvest revenues. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's my best approximation.
Okay.
Again, going forward, things are all approximate, or best guess model scenario.
Okay. And I don't know if we've heard anything back from the commissioners on the Parks Advisory Board's letter. And Alex, if
I haven't heard anything directly, but I do know that it generated some discussion between the commissioner's office and the budget office. But details and specifics have not made it back to me, so I don't have anything to share, unfortunately.
okay. And the only other comment I had on the presentation was that 6-year development moratorium. That's a Kitsap County DCD creation. I don't think that doesn't have anything to do with DNR, and I don't believe that other counties do it that way. I don't know if anybody's really, and I think that part of it, the background on that is that got created when a combination of things happened, is that DCD made some changes. And then separately, the Parks Department, when a bunch of big parks were purchased, they were changed from a whole bunch of 20-acre parcels to a massive parcel. And the county's regulation had just switched. So, you know, suddenly the county's regulations, they were implementing a rule that was based on, you know, a 5-acre parcel, and they were now implementing that on a 3,500-acre parcel, which is, you know, a booby trap for any kind of park development. So I certainly have always thought that somebody needed to call some attention to that and ask for some review on that, because it's really problematic on the parks that are the scale that you're now dealing with. So those are all my comments.
Oh, thanks for the comments. Yeah, the other thing with DCD is like even just trying to figure out what development is.
Right.
Yeah.
And
what is it? Yeah, that's
and how is it different on a 5-acre parcel than on a 3,500-acre parcel? And you know, is a 1-acre parking lot on the south end gonna trigger, you know, is you've got a development moratorium because you cut trees 3 miles away? You know, it's
look like Larry's trying to spur us on time-wise there.
Possibly. I'm looking at my clock here and knowing that we still have to go to the Alex show, and that always runs long. Anyway, Lisa, what you got?
Well, I don't know. I probably, after what Linda said, how could I top that? Very good, Linda. Thank you for those great comments. I just wanted to bring up the culvert again, also where the beaver pond is, and just stress that there were stewards maintaining that gladly, happily for a long time until they felt like they were being treated not very well. So they stopped doing it because they weren't being respected. So I just want to say that there are people willing to do the work and it won't get, you know, overlooked. And yeah, I'm just, you know, putting out a word there for them and the hard work they put in maintaining that for years. Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you, Lisa. Any other comments before we move on to the next portion of our agenda? Well, Kevin, thank you very much. I appreciate all the work that you put into this stuff. I did have a bit of a panic attack when the first illustration you popped up was Banner. But, but I think you put that in there just to give me a heart attack. Anyways, so moving on along. Special presentations and reports. Parks Capital Facilities Plan 2025 through 2030. Alex.
Thanks, Larry. I will try and zoom through this as quickly as I can. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let's see, share. And now we will do this. Okay, so as you all know, we go through an annual process of updating capital facilities plans across all departments every single year. So it is a 6-year plan that looks out at capital projects, but is updated on an annual basis. For this year, and you've also known that in the previous years, we have long desired to do a more robust update of our capital facilities plan, but not really had the staff in place to do it, bringing attention to the vacancies to our parks planner for the majority of the last 5 years, as well as having the appropriate capital projects staff members in place as well. And so because of that, a lot of the past minus some minor updates, the past capital facilities plans have mostly stayed the same moving forward. However, this year we have the benefit of having some community input from the PROS plan process. And while the PROS plan is not complete, You'll remember the series of surveys and public engagement, the public meetings and so forth did provide us some information that we were able to form fit into capital projects. And we utilized some of that this year to help educate and populate proposed projects. But before jumping into 25, some quick 24 accomplishments on the capital front. And you are all aware of this. Of course, we have had the completion of the Stottlemyre Trailhead at the south end of Port Gamble. We currently, while we are not sitting in the building, before the year is out, we will have the HVAC project completed in the Eagles Nest building. We completed phase 1 of the Point No Point beach repair at Point No Point Park. And then we had a series of old derelict buildings getting removed out of parks. One at Nick's Lagoon, the Fairgrounds Cabin, a condemned house at Long Lake Park, and an old garage at Anna Smith. So also providing some recognition that we did this without those two positions that I was just talking about that do have a heavy role in facilitating capital projects. And even though we had the two vacancies, we were able to move some of these projects forward. And doing so by relying on existing and or past staff members to help facilitate these projects. And this was a benefit to us that we could do this, but it also impacted our abilities to do other things. By adding these projects onto staff members' plates, we had to remove other tasks from them and kind of shift their focus. And so we weren't being as efficient or effective as we could as a department, but still trying to get projects done. So just a recognition there. So I alluded to the fact that we have a desire to do a capital facilities plan reboot. And we're doing, I would say, a step forward in this year's plan, but not really the full robust evaluation and kind of this full reboot that I really have been longing to do since I got hired, because we don't have all the pieces in place just yet, but we're getting closer. Nonetheless, what I envision is, improved financial detail, improved project descriptions, more descriptive timelines for projects, and generating and having evaluation tools that we can utilize to develop priorities for our projects. How are we deciding which projects get prioritized and moved into certain years, and how do we balance this across the different types of projects that we have? And so we don't have this stuff in place. I'm just mentioning that this is some of the work that we intend to do in the next probably year to 2 years to really make our capital facilities plan more structured, more organized, and just more grounded than it currently is. So some of the ways in which we would look to develop this prioritization tool might cover topics such as what is on the screen here. We have community need, alignment with department and other strategic goals, looking at cost benefit analysis, of course, available funding that can be without grants, and so forth. How feasible or ready is a project, that kind of shovel ready terminology. The sustainability of a project and its impact to the environment will be, critical to how we prioritize and we think about which projects should be moving forward. Supporting other capital improvements, whether it's, dovetails into another project within our department or is involved in a project that's greater than our department, and also supporting goals and objectives across other county departments. Community equity, where are our projects by geography, by, use of different populations within our community, et cetera. This is not fully baked, but just providing an idea of where we're trying to go with the program. One thing we are rolling out this year are project types. And so we are these different project categories, you could call them even. And it is a way for us to start to organize our capital projects in a way that can help us evaluate them a little bit easier, a little bit more robustly, and provide some of that project equity as well. And you see these on here. Land acquisitions, pretty self-explanatory. Park access, this would be projects akin to parking lots development, trailheads, those locations where we are improving the public's opportunity to access our different park locations. Park amenities would be like a singular improvement to a park. So as an example, a few years ago, we added a new picnic shelter at South Kitsap Regional Park. A couple years later, we added a new playground facility at the same park. Those would be examples of a park amenity type of capital project, is kind of a singular one-off. We're going in and building this facility. The athletic facilities would be kind of exactly what they're saying, an athletic facility, whether it's a soccer field or a multi-use soccer/softball field, or building a softball field or a pickleball court, basketball court, tennis court, etc. It kind of falls into that category. Event facilities, these would be, again, fairly self-explanatory. Your big indoor event venues like the Pavilion, the President's Hall, our community buildings, and maybe an outdoor amphitheater somewhere. These are the type of things that are designed for facilitating special events. Trails trails is huge. One of the big comments or multitude of comments we heard back in the last survey that was capital projects focused in the PROS plan process was doing improvements to our trail networks at various locations to improve accessibility, to make them ADA compliant, so that we can offer opportunities and open up our parks to additional access. Those are not cheap endeavors, and so they do rise to the level of a capital project. And so providing some recognition to that. We have natural resource improvements. These would be projects that are focused on improving our natural resource, whether it's forest health or protecting a critical area or improving wildlife habitat. An example of this is we have a project at Guillemot Cove where on the shoreline we have a head wall there with a cabin on top of the head wall. Further back into the estuary, we have a bridge that crosses it, but doesn't quite make it all the way across the estuary because it's kind of gotten fairly wide. And so the removal of those elements kind of fall into this natural resource category, that by removing those elements, we have the ability to improve and enhance the natural resource there. The park development category is really when a project rises to the level of includes a combination of could be any of 1 through 7. And that is where we are doing a multitude of things at a singular location. It has, new park amenities. It has, trail features. It has an event facility, all going into, a singular project. It's more of like a full-on park development than any one of these specific categories. So that's what that category is intended to be. The last one on here is other. Other, as an example, would be the project that we have at Point No Point currently. It is, the repair project to the beach and shoreline that we've done phase one. We're moving into phase two. That is a response to an emergency situation. It wasn't planned for. It doesn't land anywhere on this list, but it is a capital project. It is something that, that we have to do. And so it would fall into this other type category. So what we're proposing for 2025, on here are 8 or 9 different projects, and over the course of the next few slides, I'm going to walk through each one. I've got a slide per or a project per page. So the first one on here, you should all be familiar with. This is the new parking lot and trailhead at the north end of Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park. It is being called the North Gateway parking lot and trailhead. And this one is going through its permit phase right now, working in partnership with Public Works on this one. We just got a SEPA determination last Friday. We're still waiting on building permits. We're still waiting on the SDAP permit. But once those have gone through their process and been granted, we would then move into construction bidding and looking to construct the project in the first half of 2025, targeting a completion date by the end of June. Point No Point Park. This is that phase 2 project that has been ongoing and challenging over the last, I don't know, almost a year here in terms of the permitting phase for the phase 2. We finished phase 1 in January, February of 2024. And we completed the design and everything for phase 2, entered into the permit phase in the spring of 2024. And some of the permits have come loose and some of them are not quite there yet. This is the project that is working with, I think, 5 different regulatory agencies, 2 at the feds, 2 at the states, and DCD at the local level. Gordon Park. So this is at the Fairgrounds and Events Center. You are familiar with the 2 soccer fields that we have here that we refer to as Gordon 1 and Gordon 2. We have also presented information on the soccer fields earlier this year when we were going for a grant for improvements. What we shared with you at that point, that Gordon 1, which is our synthetic turf field, is past it's at its life expectancy and it needs to be replaced. While we did not get the grant that we went for, which was more of a park development project, much larger than just the singular field, we are at least moving forward with the field replacement on the turf. It is, becoming a safety concern and just needs to be replaced. One thing to explain on here, and you'll see on the right-hand side, the picture just changed. And when I refer to Gordon Park, I'm referring to what is circled in green on this page here. And this is a conversation that we had earlier this year with the county's budget office, the county's legal team, and the commissioner's office and others to determine what we can and cannot do with the access to REIT 1 and REIT 2 funding. If you'll recall, the number 1 funding source for parks capital projects is REIT 2. REIT is real estate excise tax. And within it, there are subcategories of 1 and 2, and they have different definitions of what those funding sources can and cannot go towards. REIT 2 can go towards park projects. REIT 1 can do park projects too, but it can also do recreation centers, I think is how the terminology is called out. The fairgrounds has been defined as a recreation center because it is not available to the general public on a drop-in use. So you can't just show up at the fairgrounds and go into the pavilion and use it for, like a park. You can't do that at the President's Hall. You can't just walk into any of the barns. Those are kind of special use facilities for events. They are off limits to the public. They're not like a park-like feature. Therefore, they kind of fall into this recreation center definition, and means REIT 1 could apply, but REIT 2 cannot, because the definition of REIT 2 does not include that terminology. So what we had a conversation with was about the properties that are outlined in green. And our proposal is that we're looking at developing this more into a traditional park-like features that are free and accessible and walk-in available to the general public. We would look to develop playgrounds, picnic shelters, restrooms, those type of facilities, as in an effort to, in part, replace Castle Park here. So if you see my cursor in the bottom right, there is a part of the fairgrounds that is called Castle Park. That is where the current playground, picnic shelter, and bathroom is. Those are aging facilities that we have kind of put the pause button on, replacing those within their current footprint, because we wanted to move forward this concept of possibly taking this portion here and turning it into that day use park type facility. So with the conversation, we were given the thumbs up that we could move forward with REIT 2 in this area, because what we're proposing falls within the context of what REIT 2 is available to fund. So bigger project, but does give us the ability to use REIT 2 for the replacement of Gordon Field. And while Gordon 1 is reservable, it's also open and free when it's not being reserved, so people can just walk onto it. One last project, the Fairgrounds and Events Center, that we've also been before the board the last couple of years, and this is the deck replacement at the Eagle's Nest. This has kind of got moved forward. We have designs, architecture and engineering designs done. We got permitted, and it actually got bid at one point, and then we lost staff, and we weren't able to move the project forward. So it kind of, the pause button got hit on it. The commissioners did grant us the funding in 2023. So we still have the funding. We just haven't been able to move the project forward. However, with the advent of the Capital Facilities Division and Public Works that is going to manage capital projects for our department, this one now has some momentum to get going again. And so we're looking to complete this in 25. So now there are 4 other projects that are much smaller in scale, but still extremely important to our capital projects program and the facilities that we have out in the community. The first 2 on here are resurfacing of existing tennis courts. So we have tennis courts in the Squamish area, which you can see pictures of here that are cracked, and here's the next one in Indianola, which you see is getting buckled by tree roots and poor or failing the infrastructure underneath the asphalt here is kind of failing. It's old and it needs to be replaced. So the 2 sports courts, we are proposing to resurface and replace these. So we're proposing to install 2 water taps at the mountain bike ride park area at Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park. So you're also well aware that we have a rather large mountain bike ride park that is made of dirt facilities. The jumps, the berms, all require water and moisture to maintain them. So for 75% of the year, that can be done with Mother Nature and the rain that comes down in our area. But during its highest use, during the summer months, we get really dry, and maintaining the jumps has been a challenge. We have had to bring big water containers in to help provide the required moisture to maintain this. We are lucky in that there is a water line that runs north-south through the park. And so we are proposing on here to provide 2 water taps so that we have access right at the mountain bike ride park to provide the necessary maintenance. Another one at Gordon Park. So this is kind of a step 1 of that future park development concept. There is currently a residential house on site, which you can see a picture of here in the bottom left, that has been managed as a rental facility for a long time, for many years. And it is currently vacant. The renters have moved out, and we had a facility assessment done of the house. It has its challenges, and we are proposing to have it deconstructed or demoed in preparation of this park development concept at the fairgrounds. And lastly are the ongoing land acquisitions that are in process at Illahee Preserve Heritage Park. There are 2 grants that are currently funded through RCO, through the Recreation and Conservation Office with the state of Washington. And on that map in the bottom left, those parcels that are shaded in blue are the ones that are targeted for the already approved grants, and those acquisitions are in process. So just recognizing that those are likely to be accomplished in 2025. So with that, and actually this is the exact same slideshow that I presented to the commissioners a few weeks ago. And when I presented this, I was proposing a couple different ways to accomplish the projects, because we do have a lot of projects that are on the list here. In the left here, of course, there's the Capital Facilities Division for Public Works. And there were 3 of so there's 4 large projects and there's 4 small ones, and then there's land acquisition. The 4 large ones are on this page here. And you will see that Public Works is being tapped to lead all 4 of these. The Public Works Roads Division is already moving on the parking lot at the north end of Port Gamble. They have been working on that for a year now, and we'll see that through to construction. The 3 on the left are being proposed to the Capital Facilities Division and pulled into their work plan for 2025. On the right, actually, let me start on the left here. So on the left, when I initially talked to them, I was uncertain about the capacity of the Capital Facilities Division and their ability to take on some of the smaller projects. So those 4 smaller ones I mentioned, the tennis courts, the water taps, and the house demo, we still want to move those forward. And so the thought was, well, if Public Works is not going to be able to manage these, how might we be able to do that on our own? And so the thought was we would look to hire a project manager to come in and facilitate just these 4 projects. Since then, though, the discussion with the Commissioner's Office and the direction we've been given is that to include these as a component of what the Capital Facilities Division in the Public Works Department is going to manage on behalf of the Parks Department. So woohoo, that is fantastic news, and we are moving that forward under the new Public Works Division. On the right-hand side are what we would look, and fingers crossed, we're able to land a parks planner in this current round of interviews, that we would be looking for that person to help lead those initial stages of the capital projects phasing. Well, one is just project-based, and that is the land acquisitions. And we would look for the planner to help bring those land acquisitions at Illahee across the finish line in 2025. And then there are three others on here that would enter the planning phase that are called out on the spreadsheet that you were all given and is in the packet that's posted on the website. And those would be, of course, Coulter Creek Heritage Park. This would be the park planning effort there that we've talked about in the past. There's the Gordon Park concept that I talked about earlier. And there is and this came up in the feedback from the pros plan, desire for adding a picnic area to North Kitsap Heritage Park. So what does that look like? I don't know. Kind of what I'm thinking is we bring in the restroom facility that has long been overdue at North Kitsap and look to at the parking lot and look to possibly develop that with maybe a picnic shelter or just picnic tables, open-aired picnic tables, something to that effect. But this is premised on the comments that we heard from the community. So looking at just the initial planning phase there, the capital components that go with those three planning projects would come in subsequent later years. So I'm going to go through this super quick so we have an opportunity for discussion. So with all of these projects, there's a variety of different funding sources that we will be tapping in 2025, or at least we are proposing to utilize for these different projects. We have REIT 2, which I talked about. We have park impact fees, and we have general fund. The general fund is already tapped for the Eagle's Nest project. We only have one project with utilizing general fund dollars. The park impact fees historically been used for debt services. We have actually in a position where we are paying off debt services and we are getting enough money that we are creating a fund balance there. And we have the ability to use that to fund the planning, the front end planning efforts for some of our parks. So that's kind of an exciting recent revelation. Conservation futures will be used for some of the Illahee acquisitions. The KPFD, or the Kitsap Public Facilities District funding, you all know is part of an ILA, an interlocal agreement for the funding of the Port Gamble projects and will help fund the new parking lot and trailhead at the north end. And then grants. We always go for grants to help supplement the public dollars that we have and leverage those to the public dollars to go even further. So we would look at grant opportunities always and see what we can make happen in those areas. And then lastly, when I did this presentation to the commissioners, really wanted to emphasize with them that REIT 2 funding is the primary funding source for the Parks Department. So it was really important because it is receiving demands from other departments too, that without the access to REIT 1, REIT 2 is our primary go-to. They want to see us do projects. They've got to make sure that they preserve REIT 2 for parks. And that's my spiel. The public on next Monday, on the 25th, all of the facilities plans will be coming to the commissioners for a public hearing process. During this public hearing, people can show support for projects, they can ask questions, or at least provide their comments to the commissioners about the various public facility plans. Parks will be there. We will present first, and then you have a slew of other presentations The transportation improvement plan will be provided, the tip, construction plans for transportation, facilities department, public works, stormwater, et cetera. All of them happen at the same time every year, and that comes on Monday. And so with that, I wanted to stop here and see if you have any questions, comments, thoughts. Lisa?
Yeah, I had a question. I'm kind of confused. I'm like, you told Dawn that they couldn't go ahead with Coulter Creek projects because what, the framework and master plan weren't complete, or that you didn't have a planner yet?
No, that the framework or the master plan is not complete.
So I'm really confused on how can you guys go forward at the Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park projects when there isn't a completed framework or master plan? Aren't those projects as well?
They are, but those were agreed to and under contract before the framework and the plan was realized. So when we did the master plan or the framework for Port Gamble, it was with the assumption that the mountain bike ride park, the Stottlemyre parking lot and trailhead, and the north parking lot and trailhead were givens, that those were just going to happen. And so
How can
that's
that be just a given? What does that mean? I don't.
Means that that level of agreement and understanding happened before I got here, before I was hired. I'm not going to. I don't have a good justification for it. But
okay,
it's
Alex,
not the process.
Alex, I'll throw you a bone here.
All
Okay,
right.
a little bit of one. Okay, the ride park and the Stottlemyre parking area and everything were some stuff that was agreed to sidebar from master planning at Port Gamble itself, and that was agreed to through the county commissioners. So it was kind of, the conversation went through parks and through the advisory board, but it was more along the lines of streamlining what they wanted to put together for the project itself. That's why that happened there. And trust me, there were some people who were not too crazy about it, but the county commissioners wanted to move forward with that. So we didn't really have a big say in that.
Thanks, Larry. That's actually more than I've learned about how that process happened. Lisa, I mean, I get the concern and the frustration. It's not really the process that we would like to go through for, park development. And it's not what we intend to do as we move into, other park projects that we want to do. We have this, actually have this graphic that shows kind of the different phases and how we intend to march through different, park assessments. Environmental evaluation is a component of that. Move it into, public engagement, move it into concept phase before you even get to the construction stuff. But with Port Gamble, we're going to conclude this last trailhead at the north end, improve park access, and then kind of, we will then hit the pause on Port Gamble and do the environmental analysis, or at least the wildlife utilization study that also got funded as a part of the budget process, wrap it into the framework, and then move the framework forward for additional public evaluation and final approval with the commissioners. So we'll be moving it back to the commissioners in late 25, likely.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really confusing. So,
Yeah, I can assist in any way that I can, but yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know that we like.
Thoughts from Questions? Okay.
Glad you figured out a way forward. That's an array of projects and a lot of challenges.
Yeah, it's a minor step forward from where I would like to be. The information that we got from the community engagement from the pros plan helped to populate some of the projects. Some of the projects are, have been ongoing for a couple of years now, and so of course those need to continue. But we want to do again, a more robust evaluation of the huge laundry list of projects that we need to get done for parks, just based on improvements to existing parks, existing facilities. And we don't have the tools in place just yet in order to kind of build that out, but hoping to do that in the near future and really be satisfied with a good plan. We're getting closer. We're not fully there yet. So with that, as this goes to the commissioners on Monday, if the advisory board is so inclined, it would be fantastic if you would be comfortable to make a recommendation on the CFP to the commissioners, and then I would share that with them when I do the presentation.
Well, that was a lot of words to say. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, I got a motion from John. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Have a second from Linda. Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion on this?
Wow.
Okay, hearing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, aye. Indicate aye. All right, any opposed? Go forth and make it happen, Alex. Do you want any friendly faces in the crowd?
If you would like, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Not necessary, but whether it's online or in the crowd, always happy to have members of the advisory board be present and there for communications with the commissioners.
Sure, just let us know what it is. And don't tell me tonight, just send me a message, because come on, this steel trap is rusty.
I'll send it out to the full advisory board.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Is it the public meeting in the evening, Alex?
Yes, it is. That's correct.
All righty. So I guess I got to get my bifocals back over by my screen. Hey, when you got aftermarket parts in your pelvis and everything, you can only sit for so long. Okay. Oh my God. Park director's report.
Yeah, I won't, because we are so close to 8 o'clock here. You have everything written. The first, I guess, couple important items. One, I told you about the planner. Secondly, the last meeting, we went over the events policies and fees. There were really good conversation, comments that came back to us. We are still working on an update to that. Since then, we also got some feedback from the county's legal department, and they would like to see us better define some of the terms that are in there and do some organizational changes to the formatting. So we're working through that. With that, we obviously didn't have it ready to bring it back for you this meeting. With the holidays and everything, we will bring it back to the Parks Advisory Board, but not until 2025. So a couple months from now, we'll be rolling it back out to you. It's just not because of the feedback, the workload that staff has. We just haven't been able to get back to it just yet. Any other comments on some of the specific items in there? I'm happy to talk about that, and otherwise we can, again, you have it in writing. Linda, you have your hand up?
I was wondering if you can give a little bit more clarification for everybody as far as next steps on the forest plan. You'd mentioned in your cover email that, you know, this is just a draft. I wasn't sure from Irene's discussion if it comes back to the Parks Board or if we have if people have a deadline for comments. I know there's still a lot of people without power, but I know we have, you know, several attendees that I know are interested that have been involved. So what's the timeline for people to provide comments, and will it come back to our Parks Board?
So I'll answer a couple of things and then turn it over to Irene. Yes, on both fronts. I mean, right now it's not, I mean, we will accept comments at any time. We're not in, you know, quote unquote, the official public comment period. That is going to come later, also in 2025. Where we're at is kind of just rolling out this draft version. You know that in January 1, we will have a new commissioner, and we will, before the policy moves forward any further into additional public review and comment period, as well as back to the Parks Advisory Board, we would love for you to, you know, make a motion on this eventually. We aren't ready for that. We are going to share this with the new commissioner in a, you know, an educational way to get them kind of up to speed. But we got to wait until we can do that before we move the plan forward any further. Irene, do you want to add anything?
Not too much more than that. I would say, you know, y'all have our contact information, so you can send comments. The draft plan is in the PAB packet, hence why it's so long this month. So if you'd like to look at it there, you can look at it there. We're going to be incorporating some additional comments we got from our subcommittee meetings over the past 2 weeks, and making a few tweaks to the draft. So it's definitely, you know, I would say by the end of the year, or even by the end of into January, we'd be happy to receive comments from the board, and then we'll have an additional public comment period at some point in 2025 as we figure out the schedule of, you know, all these different plans that are rolling out in the early part of 25.
Thank you.
All righty then. So we get to the subcommittee reports. Parks and Properties did actually have a meeting and everything where we got briefed on what Alex just briefed us on again. So that's kind of the subcommittee report for them. Anybody else? Are you awake?
Yeah, the subcommittee for the planning and property, I think is what it's called, also met twice about the forestry policy. So there were multiple subcommittee meetings this past month.
Okay, cool. All righty. Any old business? I'm hearing none. Is there any new business? All right, public comments, round 2. Dee, do we have anybody waiting in the wings?
Yeah, we have Joe Lubisher, and Joe, I'm allowing you to talk.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
How about, are Kevin and Irene still on?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, please pop up your screen because I'm addressing you two in particular. This is a comment that I made previously to the Parks Advisory Board. The basic punchline is that culvert, Kevin, you described as just fine. So beaver deceivers. The problem with beaver deceivers is that they provide a wonderful framework for wattle and daub construction. Okay. The one at North Kitsap Heritage Park is actually pretty rusted out at this point. For years, the park stewards had a antagonistic relationship with the beavers. They would plug the they would plug the culvert, and then the stewards would come and clean it out. And this went on, month after month and year after year. Several years ago, the park stewards entered into a cooperative management agreement with the Beaver Clan in Beaver Creek. Since that time, the stewards haven't done a damn thing, and the trail has not flooded. Everything is in order. So at this point, the Beaver Creek, the pond above it and the pond below it are all under the control of Beaver Management. And so if you wanted to do something, I'm not sure you could even get a permit at this point. So you're probably waiting for the punchline, which is several years ago, we installed a very simple level control. And when the water gets to a certain level, it goes through a pipe and into the culvert, past the dam. So everything is working just hunky-dory.
Thanks, Joe. We'll keep that in mind as we develop management plans for that area.
Yeah, and I'm kind of shocked, to tell you the truth. You didn't know about that. So that's
We did.
subtext.
You've told me about that in the past. We're aware.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. Anybody else?
There are no attendees, but Linda has just raised her.
Well, by all means.
Sorry, Larry, I missed just the opportunity to report out. So the Port Gamble stewards met last weekend, had a good sized work party. In fact, had two volunteer work parties. I think the one working on the Beaver Pond Trail was at least 20 people, and there was a group of young mountain bikers, the mountain bikes, doing a separate work party. There's a couple of big projects coming up on Saturday, November 30th, from 9 to 12. Our Forest Fund is going to be doing a tree planting at the park. That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, 9 to 12, and they're looking for volunteers. It's a great opportunity to work off if you've eaten too much for Thanksgiving. So that's Saturday, November 30th, that they'll be planting some of the county's trees that are in the park. Then on 12/21, the regular work party will be the demonstration project of native vegetation planting. That's going to be a regular work party, but the trees have been purchased by North Kitsap Trails Association, not just trees, actually. It's an array of native vegetation. So it's going to be a demonstration project up by the view platform. And also wanted to mention that as a member of North Kitsap Trails and also one of the Park Stewards co-chairs, we did have a meeting with Commissioner Rolfus, raising some concerns about the hazards on State Route 104. The Bayview parking lot is often full, and so people are walking diagonally between the parking lot on the waterfront and across the way. And I know that the Public Works Department, Christine in Public Works, has been in contact with the state asking about maybe some rural road improvements to see if there's something that could be done on State Route 104 there within the park to draw attention to those pedestrians. So those were the three things that I wanted to mention, and sorry for not mentioning that earlier.
Oh, thank you very much, Linda. All right. Well, I'm looking at my agenda here. And after public comments, there's only one thing left. I would entertain a motion.
Hey, Larry, real quick before
Yes,
you
Alex,
do
you
that.
do this to me every week.
I do. I'm really good at it. There was a public comment that I included in the packet, but they did ask that it be read at the meeting also. Would you like me to do that? I do have it pulled up.
Do you have it pulled up? Because I'd have to scroll down to the letter.
Yeah, I've got it if you want. It says, Dear Kitsap Park Advisory Board, thank you for the opportunity to express our shared interest in improving our community's infrastructure for future generations. As residents of Southworth, we have noticed a significant influx of young families in the area. However, there are currently no local parks nearby that offer playground facilities for these families to enjoy. After speaking with fellow residents, it is clear that there is a strong desire to enhance Harper Park. While the park currently features a large open field with a baseball backstop and a nature walking trail, it lacks play equipment for children. We propose the addition of a small play set, including a slide and a swing set to better serve our community's needs. As a member of Local 2876, South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Professional Firefighters Union, we are committed to supporting this initiative. I have presented this proposal within our union, and we are eager to contribute both financially and through volunteer labor to help bring this project to fruition. We welcome your feedback and ideas regarding the proposal and look forward to any opportunities to assist in enhancing our community. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Andrew Garland.
Yeah, I like that. So have you had a chance to respond back to him or at all or?
No, not yet, since this was, coming to the board to bring it here. We did, at least respond back and recognize that we received the comment. This actually, we got similar comments in the capital survey from the pros plan that I can't remember if it was playground, but there was at least a comment in there about desired for courts, I think basketball courts or something like that at Harper. So there's possibly some continuity for, a future project. However, the park redevelopment at Harper did just happen not too long ago, and there was grant funding and other things involved. So if we're going to go in and potentially change some of the amenities like the ball field to a playground, different type of facilities, we would need to look through the grants and see what we can and can't do. That's all. That's my comments.
Okay, did this letter come in via snail mail or email?
This came in via email to the parks inbox.
Oh, okay.
It just got missed before the last PAB.
Oh Lord, the horror. When you respond back to him and everything via email, if you could introduce me via that same email, I would appreciate that. So maybe I could chat with him.
I'd be happy to. Thanks, Larry.
Sure. I'm here for you, boss. Anything else? Yes, Lisa.
Yeah. I was just curious, would that be something that would have to go through framework as well? A project like that? I mean, they're offering to pay and volunteer hours and give you funding. So how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, park much smaller, would still go through some level of planning effort to determine, is this, I mean, just because we got one comment from one person doesn't mean it is, representative of the community and the community's desire. So when we go in to do a project, depending on the scale and size of it, we would still want to do that kind of public outreach to then craft into some sort of, site development or concept plan. As a component of that would be, those planning efforts to do the evaluation of, what's feasible on this site, what makes sense based on its current conditions. And so we wouldn't end up with a document at the size and the scale of like what Port Gamble is, but we would go through a planning phase. So we would end up with some level of planning document that we would use as the backbone before we got into the construction phase. So yes, but slightly different. It would be small.
Okay, Dawn, your hand went up first and then Amy.
Just would you remind us when our next meeting will be? Because I don't think we meet in December, correct?
Well, do you want to meet in December? I certainly
I
don't.
just thought it was helpful.
Thank you for keeping the chair honest. That's, you realize that is part of your job as advice. Yeah, our next meeting will be in January. So unless you want to get together for some sort of informal dinner or something, it's a local eatery. This is the last y'all have to look at me for 2 months. Amy.
It's kind of off topic now. I guess Alex already answered my question. It was about Harper and all the work that's happened over there with the community outreach and what they want in a park. But also I think it's super cool just knowing Harper's history, and then here's a younger family coming in, because I knew the person. My kid played baseball with the person who like really was into the ballpark there and the sand that was brought in. So then they're grown up now, and then to see this. So I think it's really cool. But also Alex answered my question about, doing the outreach and see is it everyone or one person. But I love what they're doing, and it's so fitting. And I love it when people get involved in the community. So that's cool. But yeah, kind of off topic now. You guys can go ahead and have dinner. I don't know. I got a new puppy, so I'm kind of like entertained in other ways.
Oh, cool. What'd you get?
I'll show you. You guys can leave if you want.
Small town government. Gotta love it.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Oh my God. Cuteness overload.
Oh, I'm just in love.
Cuteness overload. All righty. Well, I think that's a really good way. Now, I will entertain the proverbial motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you very much.
I'll
Linda, have a
second.
motion? Okay, I think Lisa got her hand up a little bit faster than Amy did. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All righty. We'll
Thanks for
see y'all
sharing your
out.
puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just love him. Our golden passed away about 7 months ago, which was sad. She was 13 and she was my baby, but I have a new one now.
There you go. Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll see everybody in January.
Happy New Year.
Y'all have a good holiday season. We'll see you next year.
Yeah,
All right.
All right, y'all take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Have a good night.